So today what I want to do is go through the wahs and the filter effects on the quad Cortex. And I'm going to use this patch I created a while back. That's kind of a Joe Satriani patch. I'll put the link to it here if you want to see the overview. And of course, it's available on my Cortex Cloud account if you want to grab it. The old patch is a little different. It doesn't have the wah or the filter effect on it. But other than that, it's the same. So let's start with the wahs because they're pretty straightforward. So if we look at the available wahs, there's 5 of them here. I'm going to skip the bass wah. I'm not a bass player, and so we're going to leave that be. But the other 4, you've got the Bad Horse, which is based on the Morley pedal. I think they did with Steve Vai. So, you know, if you're looking for that kind of Vai, Satriani kind of wah, I think this is kind of the place I would start. You've got the Bubba wah, which is based on the Dunlop Buddha, which I don't know is made anymore, but it's got a little bit more mids to it than some other wahs. And then you've got 2 flavors of the Dunlop Crybaby. You've got the regular Crybaby, and you've got the Clyde McCoy version, which I think the Clyde McCoy version is just a little more vintage spec than the regular Crybaby. Overall, they're pretty similar. You can play around and find which one you like. To really use these wah effects, of course, you have to have an expression pedal. So let's start with the Bad Horse. And what we need to do is assign an expression pedal. One thing I'll say here, let me go ahead and bring that up. If you're looking at the wahs, and this holds true for the filters, it seems, if I put it in gig view, I can't see the controls for the wah. It's kind of annoying. Always before it would expand this up. I don't know why it's doing that, but anyway. So let's go ahead and assign an expression pedal to this. And all the wahs are the same. They have one control called wah, and you just need to assign that to an expression pedal. So let's hear what each one sounds like, and we can compare a little bit. I'm not the best wah player in the world, but we'll go through them and see what we get. So what I'll do is I'll just play and switch between the 4 wahs so you can hear some of the sonic differences, and then you can kind of decide which one you like best. Here's the Bad Horse. We'll try the Bubba. Kind of annoying that when you switch, you have to reassign the expression pedal every time. Go to the Flying Clyde. And last but not least, the Crybaby. And so those are the wahs. I think the Bad Horse is good if you're doing kind of some of those kind of lead tones that you want to put a wah on, kind of like. And that works really well. I like the Bubba wah for kind of more lower gain riffing kind of thing. It also does well with some of the upper notes. I think those are my two favorites. So let's go ahead and move on from the wahs, which are pretty simple, and we'll get into the envelope filters, which are not so simple. So here is the envelope filter that comes with the Cortex. It's not based on any third-party device. And let's go through some of the controls here before we play around with them. So first up, you have the sensitivity. So the sensitivity is controlling kind of how loud you have to play for the effect to kick in. So if you keep the sensitivity low, you can play quiet and the effect doesn't kick in until you kind of hit the strings hard. Attack and delay are kind of time-based controls. So you can control how fast it engages and how slow it disengages. Over here, you've got a dial that lets you run from, this is the different kinds of filters, low pass, band pass, and high pass. And this allows, we'll play around with this, but this allows you to kind of dial between them. Most other ones just have a switch that does this, but here you've got a dial we can kind of get in between. Level and mix are what you would expect, kind of overall output level and mix of the effect. The frequency and the frequency envelope amounts, when the filter is engaging and disengaging in terms of the frequencies and whatnot. And then this is the resonance, which this is kind of the amount of feedback that comes back into the envelope filter. So let's hear what it sounds like with its default settings, and then we'll tweak a few things and try it out. So you can hear that's just kind of straight up. It's kind of, when you're playing like that, it sounds just kind of like a wah. You just don't have as much control of it. But one thing I would say is when you get up high, you don't get as much of the effect as you would, say, if you're trying to do like a Satriani kind of lead with. So let's start with, the sensitivity. Like I said, if you drop the sensitivity, you can play quiet. And you're not getting much of the effect. If you bump it up, no matter how softly you play, it's going to engage the effect. Attack and decay, and we can turn those. It's kind of how fast the attack comes in. You can hear with the attack, if I have it high, the effect doesn't come in until later in the note. Whereas if I have it all the way down, it's immediate. Usually I think you want the attack longer because when you're just playing, you kind of want it to come in kind of like a wah. Decay. So this is controlling kind of. So these, I would just leave them on their defaults. The low pass, band pass, high pass, again, this is a dial control that allows you to control the kind of filtering that's going on. So that's a low pass filter. And a high pass filter would be like this. So it just depends on what kind of effect you're going for. Frequency, again, this is kind of setting the cutoff frequency for the effect. So if you turn this all the way up, you're not getting any effect. So again, I would tend to leave that in the lower range. The envelope amount, drop that down. Here, the effect is really muted. And that's giving you more effect. The resonance, if you crank this up, you can hear the difference. Again, it's just kind of one of those, it's to the right is more, to the left is less. But in this case, it's the feedback into the envelope. And then this one, and the resonance envelope amount, I don't hear much difference as I move this around. My approach to these things is if I can't really get the gist of what it's doing, I just leave it on the default. So that's what I do here. So I think generally the envelope filter is an interesting option if you just want to have, well, I'll say this, it's the closest thing to an auto wah that's on the device. So if you want to, have a riff, I mean, it sounds like a wah, so it works. So if we go to the Foog, so this is the Moog MF101, I think is the device code. Basically, this is a low-pass filter. And so a lot of it's going to work the same. You've got a drive and level, which you do and mix. They would do what you expect. The decay is, you don't have a dial, you just have whether it's smooth or fast. Again, you have your envelope amount, and you have your cutoff, and you have your resonance. And then you have this filter, which is, really it's just a matter of how many, the 2-pole filter is basically like half the effect of the 4-pole filter, is one way to think of it. So this one is a low-pass filter. You don't have that control like on the last one where you can make it a high-pass filter or band pass. So again, if you drop the envelope amount, again, it's kind of not triggering the effect. If you drop it, it's just muting it. So I would just leave these where they are. Resonance, you can hear this one. If you crank it up, it's just going to stay on because it's feeding back into itself even when you're not playing. For that. And then hear the difference between the 2-pole and the 4-pole. You can hear it's kind of, you're getting the extra feedback to it with the 4-pole. So I'm not a big fan of the Foog. I would stick with the envelope filter. Now let's go to the Love Meat. So this is the Love Tone Meatball, which again, I don't think is made anymore, but I think it's an envelope filter that a lot of people like. So again, you see a lot of common controls here that we've seen already: sensitivity, attack, decay, filter type, low pass, band pass, and high pass. Remember, on the envelope filter, this was a dial that you can kind of be halfway in between them. This one is just a 3 setting. So let's hear what this sounds like, and then we'll play with a few things. probably because the intensity is so high. If we change the trigger direction to be down, so it's kind of reversing it, which is a nice sound. I like it. Color. It's kind of one of those controls that to the left is much less and to the right is more. So I think you can just kind of use this to lessen the effect. Seems like anything below. I think there's a reason it's on 10. Intensity. So again, I think this is kind of related to resonance in terms of how it's feeding the effect into itself. You've got the blend. This is like a mix. So this is kind of nice. So you can have the effect set to be like really in your face, and then you can blend it back. So trigger mode has off, half, and full. You can kind of hear the difference. And half is going to be halfway in between. So I don't think I would ever use it in off. But again, if you want to just kind of mute the effect a little bit. That's kind of cool sound. And then you've got the filter cut off. So you can hear it's, anytime you're talking to cut off, when you're going from left to right, it's probably going to be kind of more bass-centric on the left, and then as you get to the right, it's going to get more treble, and that's what's happening here. You can hear that's more trebly than. So I do like the Love Me one. I think I would probably maybe blend it down. So those are the filters. Some fun stuff in there. You could play around with a lot of stuff and try to find a very specific sound, whether you're going for just kind of an auto wah kind of thing, or if you want to get way crazier than that, you can get a lot of really cool effects here. But you're always going to get a very specific sound out of it. So some cool stuff. I hope you found this run through helpful, and as always, thanks for watching.